Interesting people, Neil Armstrong and David Scott. Before we start, make sure to subscribe on the channel and like the videos. Thank you. Neil Alden Armstrong. Born August 5, 1930, Wapakoneta, Ohio, U.S. Died August 25, 2012, Cincinnati, Ohio. Was a U.S. astronaut and the first person to set foot on the moon. Early life and career. Neil Armstrong was the eldest of 3 children born to Viola Louise Engel and Stephen Koenig Armstrong, a state auditor. Neil's passion for aviation and flight was kindled when he took his first airplane ride at age 6. He was active in the Boy Scouts of America and earned the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest rank attainable. He became a licensed pilot on his 16th birthday and a naval air cadet in 1947. His studies in aeronautical engineering at Purdue University in West Lafayette, Indiana, were interrupted in 1950 by his service in the Korean War, during which he was shot down once and was awarded 3 air medals. He completed his degree in 1955 and immediately became a civilian research pilot for the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, NACA. Later, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. He flew more than 100 hours, testing various supersonic fighters as well as the X-15 rocket plane. In 1962, Armstrong joined the space program with its second group of astronauts. On March 16, 1966, Armstrong, as command pilot of Gemini 8, and David R. Scott rendezvoused with an unmanned Agena rocket and completed the first manual space docking maneuver. After the docking, a rocket thruster malfunction sent the spacecraft into an uncontrolled spin and forced them to separate from the Agena. Armstrong then regained control of the Gemini craft and made an emergency splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Moon landing. On July 16, 1969, Armstrong, along with Edwin E. Aldrin Jr. and Michael Collins, blasted off in the Apollo 11 vehicle toward the moon. 4 days later, at 4:17 p.m. U.S. Eastern Daylight Time, EDT, the Eagle lunar landing module guided manually by Armstrong, touched down on a plain near the southwestern edge of the Sea of Tranquility, Mare Tranquillitatis. At 10:56 p.m. EDT on July 20, 1969, Armstrong stepped from the Eagle onto the moon's dusty surface with the words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Armstrong and Aldrin left the module for more than 2 hours and deployed scientific instruments, collected surface samples, and took numerous photographs. On July 21st, after 21 hours and 36 minutes on the moon, they lifted off to rendezvous with Collins and begin the voyage back to Earth. After splashdown in the Pacific at 12:51 p.m. EDT on July 24th, the 3 astronauts spent 18 days in quarantine to guard against possible contamination by lunar microbes. During the days that followed, and during a tour of 21 nations, they were hailed for their part in the opening of a new era in human exploration of the universe. Later career. Armstrong resigned from NASA in 1971. After Apollo 11, he shied away from being a public figure and confined himself to academic and professional endeavors. From 1971 to 1979, he was professor of aerospace engineering at the University of Cincinnati, Ohio. After 1979, Armstrong served as chairman or director for a number of companies, among them Computing Technologies for Aviation from 1982 to 1992 and AIL Systems, later EDO Corporation, a maker of electronic equipment for the military, from 1977 until his retirement in 2002. He also served on the National Commission on Space, NCOS, a panel charged with setting goals for the space program, and on the Presidential Commission on the Space Shuttle Challenger accident, the group appointed in 1986 to analyze the safety failures in the Challenger disaster. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1969, the Congressional Space Medal of Honor in 1978, and the Congressional Gold Medal in 2009. David Scott. David Randolph Scott, born June 6, 1932, San Antonio, Texas, U.S., is a U.S. astronaut who was the commander of the Apollo 15 mission to the moon. After graduation from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point in 1954, Scott transferred to the U.S. Air Force and took flight training. He earned an MS in Aeronautics and Astronautics from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and went to Edwards Air Force Base in California to train as a test pilot. In 1963, he was among the 3rd group of U.S. astronauts chosen. Scott and Commander Neil Armstrong crewed the flight of Gemini 8, March 16, 1966. They successfully rendezvoused and docked with an uncrewed Agena target vehicle, which was the first space docking, but an electrical failure caused the Agena Gemini craft to tumble wildly. The Gemini capsule was separated from the Agena. Control was finally re-established, but the mission had to be aborted. Scott and Armstrong landed 10 hours 42 minutes after takeoff. Scott served as command module pilot of the Apollo 9 flight with Commander James McDivitt and lunar module pilot Russell Schweikart. Their mission was launched on March 3, 1969. In Earth orbit, these men rendezvoused and docked the command module with the lunar module, which was on its first crewed flight, and they successfully tested all systems necessary for a lunar landing. On July 26, 1971, Scott, lunar module pilot James Irwin, and command module pilot Alfred Worden were launched on the Apollo 15 flight. After a 3.5-day trip, Scott and Irwin landed on the Moon at the base of the Apennine Mountains near a gorge called Hadley Rill. Using the lunar roving vehicle, they covered about 28 km, 18 miles, on 3 separate treks, and spent more than 17 hours outside their lunar module. The mission returned to Earth on August 7th. From 1972 to 1975, Scott was a member of the administrative staff of the Apollo-Soyuz test project. He then became director of the Dryden Flight Research Center at Edwards Air Force Base. He left the space program in 1977 to enter private business in Los Angeles. In 2004, he wrote a book, Two Sides of the Moon, Our Story of the Cold War Space Race, with Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe on the channel and like the videos. Thank you.